Stan Lee is responsible for the nerd blockbuster life we have today. He is the genius behind some of the most iconic superheroes to ever be put to pages and the big screen, like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Thor, and thousands of other characters. Stan Lee isn't just the man who created Marvel Comics. He's much more than that. Want to find out more? Be sure to like, subscribe. Have you done it yet? Alright, cool. Let's get into it. Stan Lee was born Stanley Martin Lieber on December 28th in 1922 in New York City, New York. During this time, his family was part of the 2.7 million Jews who fled from Europe to America. His mother was a housewife, and Stan's father lost his job as a tailor during the Great Depression, who then tried to use his family savings to own a diner. Sadly, it didn't work out. Stan even recalled the earliest memories of his father, saying that he was looking in newspapers in the wanted section. The family moved to a small town run-down apartment in Washington Heights. All Stan dreamed about was having enough money so that he could stare out a window with a proper view, because at the time, well, his window was facing the brick wall of his next door neighbor. With money being so tight at home, his parents pushed him to skip a few grades so he could get into the workforce a lot earlier. Stan was a good student in high school, but he struggled to make friends due to him being younger than his classmates. He found his love for entertainment though through books and movie theaters. He even got a job at the Rovellini, where he worked as an usher. He got to see all the movies he wanted while still bringing home money for the family. When Stan was 15, he entered the New York Tribune newspaper contest, writing about the week's biggest story, and he was given an award. This gave Stan the right motivation to become a writer. While still in high school, he took a job writing obituaries for the news section on celebrities who passed away. He soon quit the job because it was too depressing. In 1939, a friend got Stan a job at Timely Comic Inc., which would be later known as Marvel Comics. Stan's job was to be the gopher in the office, working for $8 an hour. Timely Comics was trailing behind National Comics, which would later become Detective Comics, aka DC Comics. They had Superman, Batman, and Aquaman, so Timely came up with the Human Torch and Submariner. And the next big star was Captain America, which was released in 1941. Stan got his first big chance to help the company write the third issue. The boss liked what he saw, and soon Stan was working his butt off as a writer, and he went under the alias of Stan Lee, so no one would know it was him at the time, because, well, he thought the comics were kind of silly. Later that year, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon felt like they were getting snubbed of profits from Captain America, so they both left Timely. This would become the beginning of the most complicated relationship between Jack and Stan. In 1942, Stan entered the army in the midst of World War II. During this time, he used his talents to create a poster for the cadets to have safe sex and combat syphilis during the outbreak that was happening in Europe. When the war was finished, Stan was 23 and moved back to New York to get to work. On December 5th, 1947, Stan married Joan Carolyn Buddock in Reno. They didn't have a honeymoon, but instead they moved back to New York on the east side. By 1960s, Timely Comics was known as Marvel Comics, but business was bad. Stan had lost his passion, nearing the age of 40, and was considering changing careers. However, his next big creation would change his life moving forward. Taking inspiration from DC's Justice League, Stan created the Fantastic Four, and instead of having them be immortal Boy Scouts, he set out to create superheroes with normal life problems, like bad tempers and money issues. Needless to say, this was an amazing success. Speaking of amazing, Stan Lee got to work with Jack Kirby to create what arguably the most popular characters in all of fiction, Spider-Man. They also got to work creating heroes like the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, and the X-Men. Later, Stan introduced the first black superhero to ever be put to comics, Black Panther. Then later followed up with the Falcon in 1969, and then later Luke Cage in 1972. In 1977, Marvel saw the first successful show, The Incredible Hulk, starring Lou Ferrigno. Stan Lee would become known as the Hugh Hefner of comics and dubbed the nickname Mr. Marvel. In 1988, Stan Lee became the head of Marvel to develop movies. However, a lot of movies that Stan Lee produced were not that great. In 1990, comics dropped to an all-time low and Marvel filed for bankruptcy. It was eventually bought by Carl Icahn, who offered Stan a 2-year contract in which Stan sued him, and he won the lifetime role of Chairman Emeritus, meaning that he got all the honor but none of the work. By the early 2000s, Marvel was making big-time movies like X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, Daredevil, The Punisher, and Blade. Now, they weren't as successful as the future projects to come, but they did pretty well. By 2022, Marvel had produced 27 films, and the series has grossed over $25 billion worldwide, making it the most successful movie franchise of all time. Stan Lee enjoyed every bit of it, making cameos in every Marvel film which he worked into his contract. Sadly, Stan passed away in November 12th of 2018 from natural causes. He was 95 years old. Stan Lee has left a long legacy of imagination and entertainment. And as a fellow nerd, I thank you for giving my childhood. Excelsior! Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.